Chaldean Grammar, Chapter 15. We're going to talk about object endings and some deponent verbs. We'll talk about what those are in a second. Object endings. We saw in Chapter 4 that the type B endings can be added to a lemma to create a direct object marker. All right, let's do a little bit of grammar here. In a sentence, you'll have often a subject, a verb, and an object. The subject is a noun or equivalent that is doing the verb, and you have the object, which is what the verb is being done to. So Jim, bought the beer. Jim is the subject, bought is the verb, the beer is the object of the verb. It's what was bought. So in Chaldean, lemeth in a sentence at the beginning of a noun indicates the direct object of the verb. This can be easily combined with present and future tenses because they use the type A endings. So you can also say, odin le, I make it. So you can combine the lemma, the direct object marker, with these type B endings. Bid odin le. Bid qatil li. He will kill me. Bid zawin le. He will buy them. So the lemma can be combined with those type B endings to indicate the direct object of whatever the verb is. However, the past tense is constructed with type B endings. So uidle, this is the kind of historical thing. Don't worry so much about this. Uidle. So uidle. So if I want to say I make it, kodin le. But if I want to say I made it, uidle. Sorry. So let's go with he made it. So uidle. If you add the type B endings of the lemma marker to a verb which already has those same endings, it would be awkward. So he made uidle. He made it uidle le. You see why that's awkward? Uidle le. Uidli le. I made it. Uidli le. Uidli le. It just doesn't sound right, at least to Chaldean speakers. It doesn't seem like a correct way to speak. So that was a problem. The language solved this problem by this special thing we're going to talk about, these object endings that we're going to talk about in this chapter. It constructed a past tense for transitive verbs that require a direct object, which looks similar to the present tense intensive. So it's going to look like the intensive present tense, but which takes the type A endings. Okay, so that's a kind of a mouthful. Let's just take a look at an example of it. This allows it to be used with the lemma and type B ending of the object markers, the type B ending object markers. So the way you want to say I made it is not uidli le. You use this very special construction. Kim odin le. Kim odin le. Now, what I'm saying in this paragraph is, it looks like a present tense intensive. It looks like a present tense because of the cup. It looks like an intensive because of the meme. That's actually not what's happening here. It should be noted that the tense indicator of the past tense plus object marker is not the cup nor the meme. So it's not the cup, which the cup itself indicates the present tense. The meme indicates the intensive. Do not see this as a cup and meme. See this as the total particle kim. So this is not a present tense intensive in this case. This is a particle kim. See this as a unit. So when you see kim, the way to distinguish from the intensive present tense is generally the addition of the lemma and a possessive pronoun as the object marker. So how are you supposed to tell whether or not this is present tense plus intensive, or whether it's kim? It's kim, it's this past tense with the object marker if it has one of these after it. If it has a direct object marker, then you're talking about a past tense, I made it, kim odinne. In fact, it is not uncommon to see phrases like this written as a single word. So this is going to be kind of annoying to deal with, but when you see it, at least be able to recognize it. Kim odhinle or kim odhinne, I made it. You'll see it all written as one word. I made it. This whole sentence is basically one word, kim odhinne. So you have the particle kim, you have the root, odhin, type A endings. So this is another weird thing. It's type A endings for a past tense, and then you have the direct object marker. So what's happening here? It's a past tense. It's a past tense. I made it. It's a past tense that's using type A endings. Kim odhin. That's one way you can sort of tell it by itself. Kim odhin is just weird. And then you have the direct object marker. Then you know this is about a transitive verb. It's about a verb where you're going to talk about the object. I made it. You don't just say I made. There's always something that you made. Kim odhin le. So for that construction in the past tense, this is what you're going to use. The following are the full inflections of every element of the past tense conjugation. Like with other verbs, those roots or conjugations ending in resh or nun absorb the initial lemeth. We already saw that. Okay, so they'll absorb the lemeth. So let's take I took plus the object ending. This is going to be a very complicated. Here's a full chart. Look at how much there is here. So let's take one thing at a time. If I want to say I took me, what do you mean I took me? Well, I took me. I've got this grapefruit here. I took me a grapefruit so I can eat it later. In English, it's a little bit kind of slangish. And in Chaldean, it's also kind of slang, but you'll hear it once in a while. So if I want to say, I took me, kim shaklin, so it's the type A endings, shaklin, I took for myself, kim shaklinni, and then there's going to be some object. I took for myself. Kim shaklinnuch, I took you. So here, kim shaklin is I took you, masculine. Kim shaklin nach. Now this can be, let me make a very, very clear statement here. This li or lach can indicate either the direct object or the indirect object. So this can mean kim shaklinni can mean, I took myself over to the whatever. So this the li here, kim shaklinnuch, I took you. You are the thing that I took. But it can also mean I took for you, kim shaklinnuch, a grapefruit. I got this for you. So this can mean both the direct object or the indirect object. So again, so this is all still I am doing it. Kim shaklinni, I took for me. Kim shaklinnuch, I took you. Kim shaklinnach, I took you. Kim shaklinne, I took him. Kim shaklinna, I took her. Kim shaklinnan, I took us. Kim shaklinnochun, I took you. Kim shaklinne, I took them. All this is just for first person when I'm the one doing it. This is all the different possibilities with this verb shkal, but there's lots of verbs that you can do this with. So here's what we just saw. This chart right here is this line. Kim shaklin ni, uch, ach, and so on. If you are feminine, kim shaklanni, kim shaklannuch. So I feminine took you, masculine. Kim shaklannach, I feminine took you, feminine. Kim shaklanne, kim shaklanna, kim shaklannan, kim shaklannochun, kim shaklanne. What if you're speaking to a male? Kim shaklitti, kim shaklittuch, kim shaklittach, kim shaklitte. Or you can actually say kim shaklit li, kim shaklit luch. You can pronounce the lemeth if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. And so on. If you are speaking to a female, you are saying, you took me, kim shaklet ti, kim shaklet tuch. This would actually never happen, but kim shaklet tach, and so on and so on. If you're saying he took me, kim shakal li. So there's not really any new information here. This is the type A endings to indicate who's doing it, and the type B endings to indicate the direct or indirect object. And then the new thing really is this particle kim. That's what's happening here. That would indicate that this is happening in the past. This is a past tense thing that's happening. This is a very confusing part of the language. You might want to maybe watch this lesson a couple other times just to make sure that you understand what's going on. Okay, but here's all the different possibilities. Kim shaqli, kim shaqli luch, kim shaqli lach, and so on. Just take this. It's this kind of subject, this kind of object. This is what you're going to get. Okay. Note that when the verbal ending and the object marker are identical, the object marker takes the meaning of an indirect object and a noun is required to complete the meaning. As in, Kim shaqlinni bakhta, I took me a wife. I took for myself a wife. Kim zabnit, Kim zonittuch betha. You bought yourself a house. Kim zonit, so that's second person, Kim zonit. Luch, you bought yourself betha, a house. Kim zonittuch betha. Of course, you can add hua to make a perfect. Kim shaqlin wali bakhta. I had taken. Kim shaqlin wali. Kim zonit waluch betha. You had bought yourself a house. Or you can put a wa in any one of these combinations. This is a little bit complicated. Like I said, let it sink in. It is a fairly common thing in the language. You're going to hear it a lot if you're speaking to people that speak it. So hopefully you'll be more familiarized with it as you continue to learn the language. Let's talk about deponent verbs. Deponent verbs, there are two commonly used Chaldean verbs that are deponent. That is passive in form but active in meaning according to English usage. Okay, so a deponent verb sounds like it's passive. Sorry, yeah, sounds like it's passive, but it's actually an active meaning according to English usage. These two verbs are to owe and to like. Both of these verbs have distinct meanings when used with an active form, and each will be explained in turn. Okay. To owe in Chaldean is ktalibli. So look at the form of this. Ktalibli means I owe him. The way you would translate this into English is I owe him. What it literally means is, here's the present tense marker. Talib means he requests, I can't select it. He requests from me. Talib li literally means he requests from me. But what it means idiomatically is I owe him. So if you owe somebody money, this is the way to say you owe somebody money is he requests from me or I owe him. Talib li. Okay, here it is. He requests from me. Now in English, we don't say he requests from me. We say I owe him, which means according to the English understanding of what's happening in this verb, this is a deponent verb. It's passive in form, but active in meaning. Maybe according to the original understanding of the language, it's not deponent at all, but the sort of idiomatic translation of it makes it a kind of deponent verb. All right. This verb works similarly to those in the chart on the previous page in that every subject and object combination is possible. So how do you use this? You go back up to this chart, it's going to be the same thing. So kim tablin nuch is you owe me. I request from you. Kim talbin nach, you feminine owe me. Kim talban le, he owes me when you're feminine. And so on with the rest of this. Kim talib li, and so on, which is the one we have here. Kim talib li. So instead of the kim, sorry, I said it wrong. It's not kim, it's just talib. So this just has a cap on it. Let me say it correctly so I don't confuse you. So ktalibli, I owe him. Ktalbali, I owe her. Ktalbaluch, you owe her. And so on. The active use of this verb is standard and follows the usual strong verb pattern. Ktalbin, ktalbit, ktalib. Past tense, tlibli, tlibluch, tlible. So the basic verb is to request. When it's combined with an object ending, it means it's to owe, but it's the meaning is reversed. Okay. Here's the second deponent verb. To like, this is a very, very, very common verb. This is really, you really sort of need to spend time and learn this. To like something, I like it, is ajibli. This literally means it amazes, ajib li. It amazes me. Ajibli. Oh, it ajib, it amazes. This is third person, present tense. Ajib, it amazes me. But it doesn't mean it amazes me. It means I like it. Ajibli. So this works similar to those on the chart on the previous page, except there are only three possibilities. He, she, and they. There's only three things that can amaze you. And it has, basically, it can only be three, it can only be in third person. So the object, if the object is masculine singular, so if you like, what's a masculine singular thing? If you like a house, if you like somebody's house, you're talking to somebody, house is masculine, betha, even though it has a tau, is masculine. So you're saying bethuch. You want to say I like your house. Ajib li bethuch. If you want to tell somebody you like your house, ajib luch bethuch. In fact, that's a nice, you can also make this a question. Ajib luch bethuch. You kind of like make that little movement of your voice, ajib luch bethuch, to make it a kind of question. Do you like your house? House is ajib. House is masculine. Luch is you. Do you like? Ajib lach, ajib le, ajib la, ajib lan, ajib lochun, ajib le. That's for a masculine singular object that you like or don't like. If it's feminine singular, ajba li. Sorry, if it's feminine singular, so we'll say ajba li, ajba luch. So if you like a girl, ajba li brata, ajba luch brata, ajba lach brata, ajba le, ajba la, ajbalan, we like, ajbalochon, you plural like, ajbale, they like. And if it's a plural of any kind, masculine or feminine, you would use ajbi and then these endings. So if you want to say, I like apples, which I actually don't like apples, but if you want to say, I like apples, ajbili chabushe. Chabusha is singular for apple, chabushe is plural. Ajbili chabushe. Ajbi luch chabushe. Ajbi lach. Ajbile, ajbila, ajbilan, we like. Ajbilochon, you plural like. Ajbile, they like. So that's how to do it in the present tense. The past tense uses the kim particle. So we've learned it. So now we're going to use it again. Kim ajibli, I liked your house. Kim ajibluch, I liked. Whatever. Or sorry, you, kim ajibluch, you liked the house, whatever it is. So this is for masculine. Same thing for feminine. Kam ajbali. So if the object is feminine and you liked it back in the day, kam ajbali brata, I liked her. Kam ajbaluch, kam ajbalach, and so on. And then kim ajbili. So the kim again indicates the present tense. The kap by itself indicates the kim by itself indicates the past tense. The kap by itself indicates the present tense. Okay, and then you can add hua, as always. Kam ajib wali, I have liked it. I had liked it. Kam ajib wali, sorry. Kim ajib wali, I had liked it. Ajib wali, I have liked it. Almost there. Okay. The active use of this verb follows the intensive pattern. Kim ajbin, kim ajbit. So if you want to just get rid of the object and just say, I'm amazed, kim ajbin, or mu'ajibli, I was amazed. Follows a normal intensive pattern because of the meme that you're adding to it. Okay? That's a tough chapter. You might want to kind of watch it again and take your time to learn it. Okay. Some verbs. Bahat, bahata, to be stunned. Batal, btala, to stop or eradicate. Gawil, gwala, to form. Ghaliq, ghlaqa, is to lock. It can also mean to close sometimes. Dhabit, dhbata, to establish or to secure. Hajim, hajama, to attack. Zachem schama. Sorry, I know it's zachem schama, to be bold. Valim vlama, to oppress. Taba tba'a, or tawa twa'a, both of them are used, to print. Talib tlaba, to request. This can also mean to get engaged. You're like requesting to marry somebody. Talibli, I owe him. Ajibli, I like it. We already went through that. Karib, to be angry. Ma'ajib, ma'ajobe, to be amazed. Sapiq, spaqa, to be emptied. Parish, prasha, to separate. Qawr, qwara, to bury. Qalib, qalapa, to be peeled. Actually, it can mean to peel too. So this can have a causative meaning as well. Raqad, rqada, to dance. Rasham, rashama, to mark something with some kind of sign or mark. Busama is pleasure. Gaza is treasury. Ganawa is thief. Gantha is garden. Daha is now. Duka or duktha is a place. Khasa is back. Tima is value. We've seen this before for sure. Yama is sea. Mukacha is humility. Muma is a blemish or a fault. Adana is time. Time in the sense of time. You know, at what time is it going to be? Or time itself. Time marches on, whatever. Waritha is a root. Zaina is armor. Zamara is singer. I think we've seen some of these before. Udaba is suffering. Aula is evil. On is help. Sota is prodigal. This is a Greek word, I think, Greek root. Bi'ya is beloved. Psira is lacking. Dalila is little. Haluya is sweet or beautiful, depending on the village and the usage. Halasha is weak. Kabira is much or a lot. Miskina is needy or poor. Nasiha is noble. Uprana is earthly. Okay, conjugate, translate. طالب لي تدرخشن بجنثة كد إيث بوخة بسمتة. And so on. Translate into Chaldean. Be careful when you do things like he owes us. Compose 7 sentences. Use as much as you can. It's going to get easier from this point on. The last few chapters are less complicated than the ones we just went through. See you next chapter.